Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rick McIver. I am the MLA here in Calgary-Hayes, where we are, and it is my privilege to be here today with my friend and colleague, Rebecca Schultz, the Minister of Children's Services and the MLA for Calgary-Shaw, very close by, to share an exciting announcement for parents of young kids here in Alberta and as well as here in Calgary, right, and all across the province. So before I turn it over to Minister Schultz, I want to take a moment and thank Janet St. Germain, who's hosting us here today at her child care center in the beautiful community of New Brighton. We'll be hearing from Janet and from Tiffany. Tiffany is a working parent whose child is enrolled here. After everyone has had a chance to speak, we will provide an opportunity for questions. So without further delay, it's my privilege to welcome the Honourable Rebecca Schultz to the podium. Minister.
Thank you. All right. I always need it a little lower, you know. Well, thank you so much, Rick, for that wonderful introduction. And Janet, thank you as well for having us here in your center today. This is the second of your centers that I have had the privilege of touring, and so I am grateful for you making the space for us to make this announcement today. And thank you all for being here as well. The pandemic and the economic downturn has forced us all to readjust our lives in some way. It's also created a significant amount of stress for working families, many of whom have continued to provide essential services and kept our economy going through this difficult year. Childcare and preschool are essential for parents to enter or to re-enter the workforce. As parents of kids 5 and 3, I know that firsthand. So first, I want to thank all of the childcare and preschool providers, early childhood educators right across Alberta who have worked incredibly hard to keep kids, their coworkers, and families safe. They've pivoted their practices throughout this pandemic to follow health protocols over the past year. And over the past year, government has worked to support lives and livelihoods. Over the last year, we've invested over $110 million to support licensed childcare and preschool programs from 2 levels of government. This helped many centers open, it helped centers stay open and provide safe, high-quality childcare options for parents right across the province. We also made sure early childhood educators qualified for the critical worker benefit that was announced 2 weeks ago. This is a wage top-up, and it recognizes the important work that they have done and will continue to do. Part of our support for parents is providing access to childcare subsidies. For a variety of reasons, enrollment in childcare centers has been down significantly this past year. We recognize the stress and anxiety families continue to face. That's why we've chosen to return these dollars back into the pockets of hardworking Alberta parents who have really been working to fuel our economy over the last year and who also rely on high-quality childcare to go to work. Perhaps most importantly, we're recognizing the variety of choices that parents have been and are currently making when it comes to early learning and childcare. We'll be providing a one-time benefit of $561 per child for parents that have enrolled their children in unlicensed and licensed daycare, day homes, out-of-school care, and preschools. This is targeted to families with a household income of up to $100,000 a year and those who have paid for at least 3 months of childcare or preschool between April 1st and December 31st of last year. All of the information that parents will need about the benefit, including instructions for setting up your My Alberta digital ID so that you can apply for this benefit, is on alberta.ca/workingparentbenefit. Every single day, Working parents across the province face unexpected challenges, and we will continue to work to protect both the lives and livelihoods of Albertans and their families. This new working parent benefit will go a long way to help protect the lives and livelihoods of these working families. And these supports will not only go a long way in helping families continue to invest in the childcare or preschool of their choice, but it will also create additional economic stimulus here in Alberta. So thank you again, Janet, for having us here today, but also for the great work that you and your team do every single day to make sure that parents have the care they need for their children in a high-quality, welcoming, early learning environment. Thank you for supporting your community. And Janet, with that, I would like to invite you up here as well to say a few words.
Hello, my name is Janet St. Germain. I'm the owner of New Brighton Childcare here in Calgary. Thank you, Minister Schultz, for being here with us today. This past year has been tough on all of us as parents, as business owners, as members of this community. As operators, we've worked tirelessly to ensure that our centers can stay open and provide a safe and healthy place for children. I want to thank Minister Schultz and the Government of Alberta for the support they've provided to childcare centres throughout this pandemic. It's helped us reopen, stay open to support parents and their children, and for that I'm truly thankful. I'm grateful that today's announcement acknowledges working parents and the sacrifices and impossible balancing acts that they've been doing for the past year. I know that this money will help many of the families in my centers and across Alberta. Now we'll hear from one of our parents, Tiffany Joy. She's been bringing her child here for 3 years, and I know today's announcement has really meant a lot to her. I invite Tiffany up here to say a few words.
Thank you, Janet. My name is Tiffany Joy Robertson. As Janet mentioned, I've been bringing my child here at New Brighton Daycare for almost 3 years. As a single mother who works full-time, having access to quality childcare is extremely important. Like many other working parents, we've had to make tough choices over the last year. I've chosen to keep my child in daycare because I understand the importance of early learning at a young age. Today's announcement means a lot to working parents like myself. This money is going to help ease some of the stresses my family has felt throughout the pandemic. Because of COVID, I don't know when I might have to take extra time off of work when my child's center may close temporarily. This funding, mixed with existing childcare subsidies, allows me to keep my child in daycare and ease my fears. I want to thank Minister Schultz and the Government of Alberta for thinking of us working parents when making these funding decisions. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I truly appreciate every little bit of help.
Thanks, everyone. We will now be moving to questions. We'll be taking one question and one follow-up. Minister Schultz, if you can. You can please put through the first caller.
Okay, our first question is Lisa Johnson with the Edmonton Journal. Go ahead, Lisa.
Hi, good morning. This question is for the minister. I'm wondering what the specific qualifications for this benefit will be. Will we see any kind of hourly threshold like we did with CWB, or how do parents essentially prove that they've been working throughout the pandemic?
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for your question, and thank you so much for joining us today. That is a great question. So what this was based on is essentially that parents have to show that they have accessed childcare or preschool in the last year between April and December to an amount of $561 over that period. And so that would qualify part-time care, preschools, as well as licensed or unlicensed day homes or child care centers. Parents will have to have receipts for the care that they receive for audit purposes. That is something that we thought was very important after seeing what had happened in some other provinces with some of their relief programs. So we wanted to make sure that we could prove access, whichever choice that that parent or family is making.
Did you have a follow-up, Lisa?
Yeah, thanks for allowing a follow-up. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more to the timeline. When will applications be open, and why is this a one-time benefit? I know that this would probably only cover a portion of 1 month's childcare costs for some families.
Again, great questions. The portal for parents to apply will open up the week of March 1st to 5th. It will begin regionally to make sure that our website can stay open so that parents can apply, and then they can apply throughout the month of March. Parents will need a My Alberta digital ID in order to apply for the benefit. And then the reason why this is one-time funding is that in childcare, in the Children's Services budget for the last year, we do have $108 million of unspent dollars that would typically have gone to things like childcare subsidy. Given that childcare centers, well, I think over 95% of our centers have reopened. We are only at about 50%. And so we do have unspent dollars that would typically go to things like a childcare subsidy for low and middle income families. And so we decided to keep these dollars in the pockets of those hardworking Alberta families who need it at this time.
Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Next is Mark Villaney with CTV Calgary. Go ahead, Mark.
Hi there. This is a question for Minister Schultz. Just wondering how the province will continue to support parents who have children enrolled at those ELCC-funded daycares that offer $25 childcare. I understand that program ends on March 31st, and in some cases, these rates, they become unbearable for parents who need to work to provide for their children. In some cases, we're seeing childcare rates go up double a month. How does the province help those parents who are seeing their rates go up quite soon?
That's a good question as well. So the pilot was originally set up as a 3-year pilot project. And so the centers and the parents who were participating in that project knew that this was only for 3 years. Much of the feedback we received about the pilot project was that inherently, because it didn't measure things like need, employment, or income, that we have to do a better job of providing equitable supports to all families across the province. The pilot only benefited a small amount of parents, and really, in fact, was only offered at 122 centers across the province out of 2,800 child care centers that we have here in Alberta. So we were able to then support, I believe 28,000 more parents are going to be able to access subsidy because of some of those changes that we made. We did work with the centers in the pilot, those that will be ending at the end of March. We looked at grants to support those centers who have a higher proportion of vulnerable or high needs parents and families, and we worked with those centers directly on those supports.
And did you have a follow-up question?
And yeah, just a quick follow-up. So the $561 benefit, why that exact number? Just wondering per child, why that number?
Mm-hmm. And that's a good question as well. And so that's given the amount of unspent dollars, as I said, in our childcare budget for the last year, with a basis estimate of how many parents are accessing childcare in that range. And so it may be a little bit more, it may be a little bit less in terms of the $108 million, but it will be $560 per child. So for example, if a parent has 2 children enrolled in childcare or preschool, they would receive that for each child.
Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Next is Safe Kaiser with 660 News. Go ahead, Safe.
Thanks. Good morning, Minister. I actually wanted to follow up on Mark's first question there. Now, the $25 a day program worked out to almost $9,000 per child per year. whereas the new subsidy model is about $3,000 fewer per child. So I'm just wondering how that's expected to help parents more or help more parents if they're getting less money.
That's a good question, and it's maybe a more detailed one because the direct grants that were provided to the $25 a day centers did not just address childcare fees. So, for example, there were additional grants for spaces or different types of curriculum implementation that a center wanted to essentially offer to their families. We know that a lot of those dollars were unspent, again, because these centers were not necessarily at full capacity over the last year. Many of them were significantly underspent in the last year. And so now, under our new subsidy model, that is directly going in to support families, low and middle income families who need the support. Many of those families will now be able to access for as low as $13 a day in the child care center of their choosing, as opposed to $25 a day in select few centers across the province that benefited a disproportionately low number of families. And so we're going to continue to invest not only in subsidies for low and income families, we provide the highest wage top-ups in the entire country for our early childhood educators. We have also expanded our program to help children who may have physical or cognitive disabilities by expanding our program in that area outside of Edmonton and right across the province. And so that's all part of where those dollars go through our bilateral agreement with the federal government. So now they're just being invested more equally across the province, in every community, in every center, and more fairly, quite frankly, for parents to access.
Did you have a follow-up question?
I do. Thanks for that answer, Minister. I guess just following up on that, my understanding of the pilot program was it would have been a universal program, kind of similar to Quebec's, whereas the subsidy obviously helps out people making less money a year. Now, I guess what's the justification there if a lot of middle-class families can't afford daycare, and that subsidy wouldn't have given them as much relief as the pilot program?
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand that question as well. So essentially, this program, to expand this program right across the province, would cost more than $1 billion. This is a difficult economic time, and the feedback from the pilot, this includes from parents and centers that were actually in the pilot, felt that it was inherently unfair because it did choose winners and losers, and also didn't necessarily always support the parents and families who needed that support. We have to balance being fiscally responsible with making sure that we have childcare choices so that parents can access those spaces to enter and re-enter the workforce or to take part in post-secondary training or retraining if they do choose. And so we have committed to continue working with our childcare working group and also gaining data. We need a little bit better data because right now, only 1 in 7 Alberta parents is actually choosing licensed childcare. We want to know a little bit more about why so that we can then confirm to taxpayers that their dollars are really truly being spent in a way that reflects the needs of Alberta parents in a responsible way, but also recognizes that absolutely childcare is an important part of Alberta's economic recovery and will continue to be.
All right, we'll give it one more moment if anybody on the line has another question. All right, thank you, everybody. That concludes our announcement.
Thank you so much.
Great job, Rebecca.
Thank you.